Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In today's fun review video, I have a real treat for you guys. It is Airfix's 1/24th scale Hawker Hurricane Mark I. This kit was released in 1973, so it is over 50 years old. This particular boxing was released in 1976, and it is Airfix kit number 14002-5. In this review, we'll take a look at what comes in the box, we'll go through the kit supplied instructions, and we'll talk about any problem areas to watch out for with those. We'll take a look at the clear parts that are included with the kit, and we'll talk about the clarity and fit of those. We'll also look at the kit supplied decals and talk about the quality of those. We will look at the surface detailing on the exterior of the kit, and we'll talk about the fit of the major parts. We'll also look at the smaller parts that are included for the interior of the kit and for the landing gear, and we'll talk about the quality of those. I'll also point out any areas of the plastic parts that will need to be filled or in some way modified prior to assembly. This kit comes with a complete Merlin engine, and we'll take a look at the detail on that as well. We'll also check out the painting and marking guides for the kit. And in this review, we'll be trying to answer the question, even though this kit is 50 years old, is it still worth building? And the answer on that may surprise you. Looking at the kit instructions, before starting in on the kit, we really need to decide if we're going to build this with the engine exposed or the engine bay all closed up. If you choose to build this kit with the engine compartment closed up, you'll want to go ahead and complete step 1. And step 1 also shows an electric engine, but that is not included in this particular kit. Just preliminarily setting things together, it looks like we'll be able to get a very nice fit on these parts with just the typical minor cleanup of each of the parts. If we're choosing to build the kit with the Merlin engine exposed, then we move on to step 2. Again, step 2 shows the electric engine that is not included in this boxing of this kit. When I received this kit, there was quite a bit of construction already done to the kit engine. I've actually gone ahead and done a little bit more fitting together of the engine parts, and surprisingly, the detail on these parts looks really nice. And I think once you add all of the smaller parts to the engine, this is going to make a nice representation of the Rolls-Royce Merlin fitted to the Hurricane. In steps 3 and 4, construction continues on the engine of the aircraft. We're also building the prop and the firewall and attaching the engine to that. If you really want to super detail out the engine, you can certainly do so with this kit. The detail on these parts looks very nice. The prop spinner itself looks good. I did notice sink marks on the back side of each prop blade, in addition to a sink mark on the front of one of the prop blades. So those will need to be filled. In step 5, we're starting construction on the interior of the kit. This step also covers the assembly of the optional pilot figure. Looking at the detail parts themselves, these look excellent. I'm really surprised at how nice these parts look. There's not a lot of flash to clean up. If you're not using the pilot figure, I would suggest getting a set of aftermarket seat belts to dress up the interior. If you choose to use the pilot figure itself looks to be fairly well molded. Moving on to steps 6, 7, and 8, we're constructing the fuel tank just behind the engine. In step 7, we are building the instrument panel. And in step 8, we are attaching the engine and the interior into the right fuselage half. The detail on the front of the control panel looks very nice. Airfix has chosen to mold the dials themselves in clear sprue, and so this will be inserted from the back of the instrument panel. I think this has the potential to look really good once it's detail painted. With this step, I would highly suggest that as you add parts to the starboard fuselage side, that you actually close up the fuselage around the parts as the glue dries, so that you have good alignment between the fuselage halves and the parts that are installed in the middle. In steps 9 and 10, we are assembling the tail wheel and the rudder. Setting the rudder parts together, it looks like we'll be able to get an excellent fit between the halves, and I really like the fabric surface detail that Airfix has done on the areas of this kit that were covered in fabric on the real aircraft. In step 11, we are closing up the fuselage halves. One critical part in this assembly is the spreader beam, and that is part 117. That will be critical in spreading the fuselage so that you get a good fit between the fuselage sides and the wing roots. Setting the fuselage halves together, it looks like we'll be able to get a very nice fit between the fuselage halves, and this should require only minor cleanup. In step 12, we're assembling the horizontal tail planes and the elevators. In simply setting things together, these look really nice. I don't anticipate any problems with this step of construction. It looks like it will require a little bit of minor cleanup to get a perfect fit between the tail planes and the fuselage. In step 13, we are building the wing gun trays. There are a lot of small parts in this step, so you really want to take your time if you plan on displaying the gun bays open. Looking at the wing guns themselves, these seem to be very nicely molded with just a little bit of cleanup that will be needed on each one. Looking at the ammo trays, these also look to be very nicely molded, although I did notice minor sink marks on the top of several of them. My only concern in this step is the ejector pin marks that are on the floor of the gun bay. In steps 14 through 16, we are building the wing assembly. The parts that are included in this assembly seem to be very nicely detailed, and if you take your time on this step, I don't anticipate any major problems. Looking at the interior wheel well detail, you can see in this photo there are a couple more ejector pin marks that need to be addressed prior to assembly. In just fitting things together loosely, it looks like you'll be able to get a pretty good fit all around on the wing. On this page, you can see step C that covers mounting the radiator assembly to the underside of the wing and the air intake to the underside of the wing. Once again, I don't anticipate any problems with that. Step 17 covers the assembly of the landing gear if you're planning to pose the landing gear retracted. Step 18 and 19 covers the landing gear assembly if you're planning to pose the landing gear extended. Looking at the detail parts here, once again, these look very nice. I'm really impressed by the level of detail on these parts. My only recommendation here would be to replace the kit supplied vinyl tires with some aftermarket wheels. In step 20, we are attaching the fuselage assembly to the wing assembly. Although it shows the engine covers being added at this time, I don't think you're going to be able to fit them onto the kit if you build the complete Merlin engine. We're also adding the clear parts to the kit and all of the other final bits. Looking at the fit of the gun bay covers, these seem to fit very nicely. Taking a look at the clear parts themselves, these seem to be of pretty decent quality. I did notice a few molding glitches on the inside of the sliding section of the canopy. These will probably need to be sanded out and then polished out, and it wouldn't hurt to dip the canopy in some future prior to adding it to the kit. The final step in construction is step 21, and that is the construction of the display base if you choose to build that. Moving on to the decal placement, there are 2 pages that just go over the stencils on the aircraft. There are 2 marking options included in this kit. The first marking option is for a Hurricane Mk flown by Squadron Leader Peter Townsend of 85 Squadron based at Church Fenton in October of 1940. The second marking option is for a Hurricane Mk flown by Flight Lieutenant Ian Gleed of A Flight 87 Squadron based at Exeter in August of 1940. Looking at the kit decals themselves, as you would expect from a kit that is almost 50 years old, these decals may or may not be usable, so I'll probably just replace these with some aftermarket ones. In conclusion, this 1/24 scale Hurricane kit from Airfix at one time represented the pinnacle of the model maker's art. It was a wonder kit of the early 70s, and for a lot of people, this was really a bucket list kit to have. This kit has held up incredibly well over time, and looking at the surface detailing of the parts, looking at the fit of the parts, I think this kit will build into a very nice looking representation of a Hurricane Mk. The fit on the major parts looks like it will turn out just great with a little bit of careful building. The detail on the smaller parts of the aircraft that represent the engine and the interior of the aircraft and the landing gear and the gun bays is surprisingly nice. There's minimal flash on the smaller parts in this particular boxing of this kit. The detail on the exterior of the kit is also excellent. There's a lot of rivet detail that is represented by very fine raised rivets. It also has some engraved panel lines. My only gripe here is the panel lines are a little bit on the heavy-handed side in areas. The clear parts themselves are of decent quality. The framing on these is nice. These should be easy to mask, and with a little bit of additional cleanup, I think they'll look just great on the finished kit. I'll probably go ahead and replace the vinyl tires that are included with this kit. I'm just not a fan of this type of tire, and sometimes vinyl tires react poorly with the kit supplied plastic wheels. Although the decals look to be nicely printed and of decent quality, unfortunately, the ones in this particular kit have kind of aged out, so I'll probably replace those with aftermarket items. The instructions themselves seem to be very clear in the construction sequence. My only gripe here is there are not many color callouts in the instructions. Overall, I am super impressed with this kit. I think this should build up just nicely. I think it'll be a really fun kit to build. Detail-wise, this kit is roughly equivalent to an Edouard 1/48 scale kit in today's day and age. As such, it will reward careful building and assembly and dry fitting the parts prior to committing to glue. And I think this kit has held up incredibly well over the years. Well, I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you out there have built Airfix's 1/24 scale Hurricane Mk, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative. And until next time, model on.